Hello and welcome. My name is Savannah, and today I will be guiding you through a slow but strong yoga class. So we will be holding each posture for around 10 breaths, which is about a minute. This practice is more on the intermediate or advanced side. So if you are a beginner, you can head to my channel and find a yoga class for beginners, and that will be more suitable for you. Let's begin by lying on our back. Take up as much space as you like. Make yourself comfortable. Make any movements or adjustments that you need to in order to settle in. We'll just be here for a little bit before we begin to move. Let's all take a really big breath in through the nose. Hold it at the top. Exhale through the mouth, sigh it out. Once again, inhale through the nose. Hold it at the top. Exhale, sigh it out. One more, inhale through the nose. Hold it at the top. Exhale, sigh it out. Take a few more breaths here, in and out through your nose. Feel your belly rise with each inhale. And feel your body soften down towards the earth with each exhale. If there is an intention that you would like to set for your practice, you can take a moment to do that now. Your intention could be, I am strong, I am present, I am enough, or anything else that you like. And I invite you to come back to this intention at any time during class, especially when your mind wanders off to other places and other things. Let's bring some movement now into the body, wiggling fingers and toes, maybe eventually bringing the knees into the chest and giving yourself a hug. Maybe rocking a little bit from side to side, and then plant the feet down. Feet are about hip distance apart. And make sure that you can just reach for the heels with your fingers. Press down into your feet and lift your hips up high towards the sky for bridge pose. Engage your glutes as well as your hamstrings, the backs of your thighs, to lift yourself up higher towards the sky. And this is our first pose that we will hold for about 10 breaths. Full breaths in and full breaths out. Use your breath to bring yourself back into the here and the now. A couple more breaths. Good. Slowly take your time to lower all the way back down to the ground. And then as you're ready, make your way over onto one side. Resting here for a moment, using one arm as a pillow to rest your head on. Bringing the knees in towards your chest if you like. And I invite you to think of a few things that you are grateful for. As you're ready, you can press yourself up and come onto all fours into a tabletop position.
Hands and knees. The shoulders will be over top of your wrists and the hips will be over top of the knees. Extend your right leg straight back behind you and reach your left arm straight out in front of you. Find a nice long line from the left fingers all the way back to the right heel. Gaze a little bit out in front of you towards the front of your mat. Engage your core and engage your back body. We'll be here for about 4 more breaths. One final breath here in our spinal balance. Great work. Bring the hand and the knee down. Extend your left leg back and reach your right arm out in front of you. Find a nice long line here from the right fingers all the way back towards the left heel. Can you reach your right fingers a little farther out in front of you? And can you extend the left leg a little bit farther back behind you? Look towards the front of your mat. Keep your neck nice and long. Notice all of the little movements your body is making in order to stay in this balancing position. Three more breaths. Release the hand and the knee down to the mat. From here, with the fingers spread nice and far apart, tuck all 10 toes under and lift your knees up to a hover above the mat. We'll hold this pose for 5 breaths. A couple more breaths. Engage your core, engage your quadriceps, the fronts of your thighs, as well as your shoulders. Feel your entire body working here to stay in this posture. One final breath. Release the knees down. Bring your big toes to touch. Knees can be farther apart or closer together. It's up to you. We're coming into a child's pose from here for just a little bit. Rest your hips down onto your heels. Arms can reach out in front of you, or the arms can come alongside your body. Fingertips to the toes. Full breaths in and full breaths out. Take one more breath here. Press down into your hands to shift your weight forward, coming back into your tabletop pose. Bring your hands a little bit farther out in front of you. Fingers are spread nice and far apart. Tuck your toes under and lift your knees up off of the ground. Lift your hips up and back. Finding your downward facing dog. Drop your right heel down to the mat. Lift your left heel up. Left leg is nice and bent. Stay here for a moment. And then drop the left heel down to the mat. Lift the right heel high up off of the ground. Right leg is nice and bent. Continue like this a few more times on each side. Right heel drops down, left heel lifts up. And then as you're ready, switch over to the other side. Picking up the pace here if you would like, or keeping it nice and slow, it's up to you. From here, find some stillness in your downward facing dog. Start to shift your weight forward, coming into plank pose. Shoulders are over top of your wrists. Find a nice long line from the crown of your head all the way back to the heels of your feet. Just one more breath here. Drop your knees down, or you can keep them lifted if you prefer. Lower all the way down to the belly. Keep your hands underneath your shoulders. Fingers are spread far apart. Toes are untucked. Lift your chest up as you come into cobra pose. Engage your upper back here. Hug your elbows in towards the sides of your body. Press down into your hands to see if you can lift yourself up a little bit higher. We're halfway, so we have about 5 more breaths. A couple more breaths. Keep your chest lifted up off of the ground. Lower your chest down. Bring one hand over top of the other. Rest your forehead onto your hands. Bend your legs and take your feet, your legs from right to left. Extend your legs out long back behind you. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Make your way back into your downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, lift your left hand up off of the mat and reach the left arm towards the back of your space. The left arm is in line with your torso. We'll stay here for 3 more breaths. Keep pressing some weight into your right hand as well as your feet. Send your hips farther back behind you. And look towards your feet at the back of your mat. One final breath here. Good. Release the left hand back down to the mat. Downward facing dog. Walk your hands back to your feet at the back of your mat. Bring your hands up onto your shins. Halfway lift. Lengthen out through the back. Reach your heart forward. Send your hips back. Find even more length through the spine. All the way from the crown of your head to the tailbone. Four more breaths here. You can have a nice bend in your knees if you like, or just a slight bend, whatever feels good for you. Final breath here. Release into a forward fold. Bring opposite hand to opposite elbow. Drop the head down towards the ground. The knees can be as bent as you would like them to be. Think about lifting your hips up towards the sky and allowing the head to be nice and heavy. We'll stay here for a couple more breaths. Bring your hands down to the mat. Walk your hands out to the front of your mat and come back into your downward facing dog. Find any movement that feels good for you here. And then lift your right hand up off of the mat. Reach the right arm towards the back of your space. Right arm is in line with your torso. Make sure your left fingers are spread nice and far apart. Look towards the back of your mat, keeping your neck nice and long. We'll stay here for just a little bit longer. One more breath. Bring the right hand back down to your mat, downward facing dog. Lower your knees down to the mat. Lower your forearms down to the mat. Your hands can be together, fingers can interlace together, or your forearms can be parallel to the long edges of your mat. Tuck your toes under. We're coming into dolphin. Lift your knees up and lift your hips up. So this is similar to downward facing dog, except for we're on our forearms. Gaze towards your feet, the back of your mat, keeping your neck nice and long. You can have as much of a bend in your knees as feels good for you. Keep pushing the ground away from you with your forearms. Good. Lower the knees down. Lift back up onto your hands. Make your way towards the back of your mat. Coming into heart melting pose or puppy pose. Walk your hands out in front of you towards the top corners of your mat. Hips will stay over top of the knees. Melt your heart, melt your chest, and the forehead down towards the ground. So you can rest your forehead down onto the mat. Or if you're looking for more sensation or a deeper stretch, you can rest your chin down onto the mat. A few more breaths here in this heart-opening posture. Lift your head up off of the ground. Start to walk your hands back in towards your body. Make sure your fingers are spread nice and far apart. Tuck all 10 toes under, lift your knees up to a hover, and extend your left leg straight back behind you. Keep your right knee low towards the ground. We'll stay here for just a little bit longer. Good, release the left foot back down to the mat. Come into tabletop so knees can come down. And we'll just rest here for a breath or two. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Fingers are spread nice and far apart. Tuck all 10 toes under. Lift your knees up off of the ground just to a hover. And then when you're ready from here, extend your right leg straight back behind you. Keep the left knee very low towards the ground. Shoulders are over top of the wrists. Gaze forward towards the front of your space. One more big breath here. Release the right foot back down next to the left. Release the knees down. And let's find a child's pose. Big toes come to touch, knees closer together or farther apart. It's up to you. Sit the hips to rest down onto the heels. Arms can be wherever you like them. Rest your forehead down onto the mat. Come forward into your tabletop. Tuck your toes under, lift your hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Step the left foot through in between your hands, top of the mat. Right hand will stay planted down just where it is. Left arm will lift up towards the sky. Look wherever feels good for your neck. Option to look up towards the left hand. Bring your right heel farther back behind you, lengthening out the right leg, and perhaps finding a stretch for the right calf. One more breath. Bring the left hand back down next to the left foot. Step straight back into your downward facing dog. We'll take a few breaths here in our downward facing dog before we do that twisted lunge on the second side. Good. Step the right foot through in between your hands. Keep the left hand planted down next to the right foot and reach the right arm straight up towards the sky. You can look wherever feels good for you, but if you would like, you can look towards the right hand. Bring your left heel farther back behind you, lengthening out the left leg and perhaps finding a stretch for the left calf muscle. Just a couple more breaths here. Release the right hand back down to the mat next to the right foot. Step straight back into your downward facing dog. Come forward to plank. Knees can stay lifted or you can drop them down to the ground. We're going to lower all the way down to the ground. Come on up onto your forearms as you come into Sphinx pose. Elbows are underneath the shoulders. If this feels too intense for your spine, you can bring your forearms farther out in front of you. You can also bring your feet to the edges of your mat, bringing the feet farther apart from one another, creating some more space for your lower back. Notice each breath as it comes in, and notice each breath as it moves out. Three more breaths here in our Sphinx pose. Perhaps see if you can push the ground away from you with your forearms to lift your heart up higher. Lower down to the ground, release from that pose. Bring one hand over top of the other and bring your forehead onto your hands. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Make your way back into your downward facing dog. Tuck the toes under, lift up into plank or plank with the knees down or tabletop. And then lift your hips up and back for downward facing dog. Let's step the left foot through in between the hands. Top of the mat. And rise on up into crescent lunge. So the left knee is nice and bent. The knee is over top of the ankle. Right leg, your back leg is nice and straight. Arms can reach up towards the sky, or hands can be together at heart center, or hands can even be on your hips. Whatever feels best for you today. Three more breaths. Good. Bring your right heel, your back heel down onto the mat. Bring your back foot parallel to the short edge of your mat. Lengthen out your stance as you come into warrior two. Arms reach out to the front and the back of the room. Make sure your left leg, your front leg is nice and bent. The knee is over top of the ankle. If this feels like too much for your shoulders to have your arms straight out to the sides, you can have your hands at heart center or hands on your hips.
A couple more breaths here in our warrior two. Feel all of the strength that you are creating in your body to hold you in this posture. Good. Bring your hands all the way down to the mat to frame your left foot. Step back into a plank pose. Knees can stay lifted, or you can drop them down to the ground. We're going to lower all the way down to the ground. Reach your arms straight out in front of you. Take a big inhale here and a full exhale. On your next breath in, lift everything up off of the ground. Exhale here. We'll stay here and hold this pose. Can you lift your chest up a little bit higher? From here, bring your arms alongside your body. Reach your fingers towards the feet. Lift your arms up a little bit higher. Just 2 more breaths right here. Good. Lower down. Bring one hand over top of the other. Rest your forehead onto your hands. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders, tuck your toes under, make your way into your downward facing dog, coming through plank with the knees down, or tabletop, whatever feels best for you. Take a full inhale here in your downward facing dog, and a complete breath out. One more like that, full inhale, and a full breath out. Step your right foot through in between your hands, top of the mat, rise on up into your crescent lunge. Arms can reach up, hands can be together at heart center, or hands can be on the hips. Whatever option feels best for you. The right knee is over top of the right ankle, so the right leg is nice and bent, left leg is straight. The left heel is lifted high up off of the mat. You're just on the ball of the left foot. Perhaps here you notice all of the little movements your body is making to stay in this posture. Three more breaths. Final big breath in, and a big breath out. Open up into your warrior two. Lengthen out your stance. So bring your left foot farther away from your right. Left foot is parallel to the short edge of your mat. Left heel plants down. Right leg, your front leg is nice and bent. Right knee is over top of the ankle. Right arm reaches forward, left arm reaches back, or hands can be together at heart center, or hands can be on the hips. Whatever you like. We're halfway, so we have about 5 more breaths. Take a full breath in, full breath out.
Bring your hands down to frame your right foot. Step back to plank. In your plank, you can leave the knees lifted or you can drop them down to the ground. We're going to lower all the way down to our belly. You can untuck the toes once you arrive. Bring one hand over top of the other and rest your forehead onto your hands. From here, keep your legs down on the ground just where they are and lift your upper body up off of the mat. Hands are stacked and the forehead is on the hands. Lift yourself up. Full breaths in and full breaths out. A couple more breaths. Final breath right here. Can you lift yourself just a little bit higher? Lower down. Keep your forehead on your hands and rest here. We'll be here for about 5 breaths. If you would like to, you can bend your legs and take your feet from side to side. Final breath here in this resting pose. Bring your hands underneath the shoulders. Tuck your toes under. Come through tabletop plank or plank with the knees down, making your way back into your downward facing dog. Make your way now to the front of your mat. Your feet will meet your hands. Bring opposite hand to opposite elbow. Find a forward fold. Allow the head to be heavy, dropping it down towards the ground. And think about lifting your hips a little bit higher towards the sky. Legs can be as bent as you would like. From here, bring your hands to your hips. With a nice, strong, long back, come all the way up to stand. Balancing on your left leg, lift your right knee up towards your chest. From here, cross your right ankle over the left thigh. Bring your hands together at heart center and lower your hips down towards the ground. Flex your right toes towards the right knee to stay a little bit more active through the right ankle and the right foot. Lift your chest up and find somewhere out in front of you to look at to help you with your balance. Two more breaths here. In and out through the nose. Bring the right knee back into your chest, straightening out the left leg, and then drop the right foot down. Switching right away over to the second side. Left knee will come into your chest. Lift the left leg up nice and high, balancing on the right leg now.
And then cross the left ankle over the right thigh. Flex the left toes towards the left knee. Start to lower your hips down. Hands together at heart center. Can you lift your chest up a little bit more here? And can you lower your hips down towards the ground a little bit more? Continue to flex the left toes towards the left knee to keep everything a little bit more active and engaged. Two more breaths, in and out through the nose. Bring your left knee back up towards your chest, straightening the right leg, and then plant the left foot down onto your mat next to your right foot. Have just a small space between your heels. Sit your hips low towards the ground. Reach your arms up high towards the sky. Lift your chest up. See if you can sit a little bit lower here towards the ground in your chair pose. If this feels like too much for your shoulders to have your arms up, I invite you to bring your hands together at heart center. A few more nice big breaths here in our chair pose. From here, start to lower your hips all the way down to the mat and come into boat pose. Lift your legs up. Legs are bent. Arms reach forward, or hands can be on the hamstrings. Lift your chest up. Lift the crown of your head up. If you're looking for more, you can reach your arms forward, and you can also straighten your legs. Three more breaths here in our boat pose. Excellent work. From here, lower your feet down to the ground. Feet are about hip distance apart. Bring your hands back behind you. Fingers facing the front of your space, front of the mat. And fingers are nice and far apart. Press down into your hands and into your feet to lift your hips up towards the sky. You can gaze towards the ceiling if that feels okay for your neck. Otherwise, look wherever feels good for you. Keep pressing down into your hands and into your feet to lift yourself higher. One more big breath here. Lower your hips down. Bring the soles of your feet together. Knees go out wide. For bound angle, you can grab onto your feet or the ankles, sit up nice and tall, find so much length through your spine, and then fold down over your legs. Lengthen out each inhale and each exhale. And can you allow your breath to be a little bit more smooth and a little bit more steady? One final breath here. As you exhale, fully release that breath. With a nice, strong, long spine, come on up. Shoulders back over top of the hips. Extend your right leg long in front of you, and then cross your left foot over to the outside of your right leg. Hug the left knee in towards your chest with your right arm, and then reach the left arm up and bring the left hand behind your back. Look over your left shoulder as you come into this twist. Flex your right toes up towards the sky to keep that right leg a little bit more engaged. We'll take 1 or 2 more breaths here in this seated twist, half Lord of the Fishes pose. Release from this twist, come back to center, extend your left leg long, bring the right foot to the outside of the left leg. Hug the right knee in towards your body with the left hand, left arm. Reach the right arm up towards the sky, and then bring the right hand behind your back. Tent up onto the right fingertips to find more length through the spine. Look over the right shoulder and flex the left toes up towards the sky. Three more breaths here. Make your way back to center, releasing from that pose. And make your way down onto your back. Once you get there, hug your knees into your chest. You can wrap your arms around your legs, and you can rock from side to side if that feels good. We'll stay here for a little bit longer. You can continue to rock from side to side, or if you would like to just hold the pose and find some stillness, you can do that. Extend your legs long out in front of you. Feet go to the top two corners of your mat. Arms come next to your body. Find your Shavasana, final resting pose. If there are any movements or adjustments that you need to make in order to settle in and be comfortable, I invite you to do that. Allow your breath to be a little bit more smooth and a little bit more steady. Watch your breath as it flows in and as it moves out. Feel your entire body resting down onto your mat. begin to deepen your breath. Make each breath a little bit deeper, a little bit longer than the one before it. When it feels right for you, you can begin to bring some movement into your body. Eventually, bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a hug. Give yourself a squeeze. Thank yourself for showing up, for practicing yoga today, for taking care of yourself. Make your way over onto one side. Use one arm as a pillow to rest your head on. And here I invite you to repeat your intention to yourself a few times. And then when you feel ready, you can press your way up into a comfortable seated position. Thank you so much for being here and for checking out this class. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a challenging one, but I hope that it helped you to see just how strong you are. Feel free to come back to this practice as often as you like. If you did enjoy this class, please hit that subscribe button. That way you won't miss any of my other yoga classes that I share on here. You can also hit the thumbs up, the like button, and you can leave me a comment letting me know what your thoughts are of this class, any feedback or questions. I always love hearing from you. And you can also share this video or my channel with a friend, family member, or on social media. I really appreciate the support. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Namaste.